I always thought old age would be peaceful, with books, plaid, and a cup of ginger tea in my cozy home on Walnut Street. Instead, I, Niobe Prescott, in my 78 years, wake up every morning in the guest bedroom of my daughter's house. Life is a master of unexpected twists and turns. As usual, I'm up at 6 in the morning, a veterinarian's habit of many years. Animals don't wait for you to get a good night's sleep. My left hip joint is aching from a fracture sustained 4 months ago. I wrinkle my nose and fumble for a painkiller on my bedside table and take a glass of water. That accident changed everything. That night it was -23, the coldest it had been in Beloit in 10 years. I woke up to a strange sound, as if there was water rushing somewhere downstairs. When I went down to the basement, I found a real flood. The main water pipe had burst. Trying to reach the valve, I slipped on the wet steps and fell down. The pain was so intense that I passed out. Luckily, my neighbor Dolores, with whom we had arranged to go to a book club meeting together, was supposed to stop by in the morning. She called an ambulance and called Kira. By the time I was taken to the hospital, the water had already damaged the foundation, wiring, and parquet in the living room. My old Victorian house, which my whole life had been associated with, was uninhabitable. After the surgery, I moved in with my daughter temporarily while repairs are being made. But 4 months later, the repairs are still in progress. The insurance company is delaying payments. The builders are finding new problems. My house stands with floors and walls uncovered, and I continue to live here, in a house where I feel like a guest. Leaning on my cane, I cautiously make my way down to the kitchen. In the morning silence, I can pretend I'm home again. I make myself oatmeal with cinnamon and apple, just the way my Harlan liked it. It's been 6 years since he passed away. He died of a heart attack in his office, peacefully behind his favorite book. I often think it's the right death, quick, without agony, in a place where you're happy. Making tea in my mug, one of the few things I was able to salvage from the flooded house. The mug is dark blue, with a picture of a starry sky, a gift from my grandson Wesley last Christmas. "Because you're like a star to me, Grandma, always pointing the way," he said then. My little philosopher. I hear footsteps on the stairs. Kira, already dressed in a strict pantsuit. My daughter has always been ambitious. At 49, she still strives to prove her worth to the world. "Good morning, Mom," she says, heading for the coffee machine. "Good morning, dear. Any important shows today?" "Two. The house on Briarwood and the apartment in the new complex by the river." She programs the coffee machine without looking at me. "Did you talk to the insurance company yesterday?" I sigh. It's a question I hear every morning. "Yeah, they're still checking the estimate from the builders. They said they think a lot of the items are overstated." "Overestimated?" Kira snorts, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "That's ridiculous. They should have seen the condition of the house." "Did the inspector even go in there?" "He did last week. He said the house is old, and some of the damage might have been there before the accident." Kira shakes her head. "Mom, you're too soft on them. You need to be more assertive. Do you want Edric to talk to them? He has a knack for convincing people. I'm sure he can. My son-in-law could sell a refrigerator to an Eskimo, like Harlan said. It's that talent that made him a successful pharmaceutical rep." "Thank you, dear, but I can handle it. After all, it's my house and my insurance." Kira shrugs, but I can see my answer doesn't satisfy her. "Suit yourself. Just remember that you can always stay here. This old house, it needs constant upkeep. Maybe you should think about selling it. I could find a good buyer." She pauses. "It would be easier for you with the money than with this headache." There it is, another try. Ever since I moved in, Kira and Edric have regularly returned to the subject of selling my house. And I understand their logic. There's no reason for an old woman to keep a big 3-bedroom house. But it's not just about the house. "Maybe someday," I answer evasively. "Right now I just want it fixed up." Kira nods, but I can see the disappointment in her eyes. She finishes her coffee and puts the cup in the dishwasher. I have to go. Edric is meeting with clients at the Mount View Clinic. He'll be back late. "Could you pick up Wesley from school? He has science class until 4 today." "Sure," I said, smiling. I'm always happy to be with him. It's true. Time with my grandson is the only hours that bring me real joy in this house. When Kira leaves, I slowly finish my oatmeal and reflect on the past. For 36 years, I have worked as a veterinarian in Beloit. I started as an assistant at Dr. Hampton's clinic and ended up owning my own practice with 3 employees. I treated not only dogs and cats, but also horses at neighborhood farms, and even exotic animals that were sometimes brought into my office by desperate owners. After Harlan's death, I sold the clinic to my young colleague Neil Brody. He has kept the name Prescott Veterinary Clinic and occasionally calls to consult on difficult cases. These calls always lift my spirits. My reverie is interrupted by a knock on the kitchen door. Wesley, already dressed in his school uniform, with a backpack on his shoulder. "Good morning, Grandma." He comes over and gives me a hug. "How's your hip today?" "Better, thanks for asking." I smile. "Do you want some peanut butter toast before school?" "Yes, please." He sits down at the table. "Are you picking me up from school today?" "Yeah, your mom asked me to." "You have science class today, right?" His eyes light up. "We're studying bird migration. Mr. Donovan said some species can travel thousands of miles without stopping. Can you imagine?" I nod, preparing a toast for him. Nature is full of wonders. When I was a student, we used to go out into the fields to mark migrating birds with special rings. One day, the ring I put on a robin was found in Argentina, thousands of miles away. "Really?" Wesley seems impressed. "What else did you study when you were a student?" I tell him about my classes at veterinary college, my first surgeries, how my classmates and I rescued homeless animals. He listens with bated breath, and once again I am struck by how different this child is from his parents. He has the inquisitiveness and kindness that I've always tried to instill in Kira, but lost that battle somewhere. "Grandma, when are you going back to your house?" he asks suddenly, and it's a question that catches me off guard. "As soon as the renovations are done, dear. Why do you ask?" Wesley stares at his toast without raising his eyes. "It's just, I heard Mom and Dad say that you might never go back there, that you should sell the house, so that's it. So I'm not the only one having these conversations in front of me." "Well, it's my decision, isn't it?" I'm trying to sound light. "And I really want to come home when it's fixed up." "I want you to go back there too," Wesley says quietly. "It's so nice there. A big garden, an attic full of treasures, and no one telling you what to do all the time." I'm touched by his candor. Children see more than we realize. After my grandson leaves for school, I go back to my room. It's small, a former guest room with a north-facing window. It's always cool and has little light. My things are neatly stacked in my closet and dresser. But I haven't unpacked many of the boxes, still hoping my stay here is temporary. I sit down in a chair and pull out a photo album, one of the few I've managed to salvage from the water. I flip through the pages. Here's me, young, in a white coat, holding a rescued Labrador puppy. Here's Harlan and me at the opening of my veterinary clinic. Here's Kira, small, laughing, cuddling our old setter, Jasper. Once upon a time, my daughter loved animals as much as I do. But then Edric came along with his ambitions and plans for a rich life, and everything changed. Now they don't even have pets. Too much hair and worry. I hear the phone ring and slowly walk over to it. It's Neil Brody, the new owner of my clinic. "Actor Prescott, I hope I'm not distracting you." "Not at all, Neil. It's always good to hear from you. And call me Niobe, please." "Niobe." He still wasn't used to it, respect in his voice. "I have an unusual case and I'd like to consult. Retriever, 8 years old, sudden loss of coordination and tremors in the hind limbs." We spend the next 15 minutes discussing symptoms and possible diagnoses. It calms me. The feeling that I can still be useful, that my knowledge and experience matter. At noon, I hear the front door open. It's Edric. It's unusual for him to come home in the middle of the day. I go downstairs to say hello. Edric is standing in the kitchen, going through the mail. Tall, with a budding bald spot that he carefully disguises with a comb-over, and a perpetual salesman's smile, my son-in-law has always given me a vague unease. Harlan called it his veterinarian instinct, the ability to sense falseness. "Niobe," he exclaimed, noticing me. "How is my favorite mother-in-law?" "Hello, Edric. I didn't expect to see you home at this hour." "I canceled a meeting with a client," he explains, opening the refrigerator. "I thought I'd stop by for a bite to eat. How's your hip today?" "Better, thanks," I reply, sitting down at the kitchen table. "Did you talk to the builders about my house?" Edric volunteered to mediate between me and the construction crew, claiming he had experience in such matters. I agreed, too exhausted from the hospital and the pain to argue. Yeah, they're still waiting for the estimate to be approved by the insurance company, he says, making himself a sandwich. But the good news is, I found a great heating system specialist. He says the old boiler in your house needs replacing. Replace it? But we only replaced it 5 years ago. We did? Edric looked surprised. That's strange. He said the boiler was at least 15 years old. Maybe you were tricked back then? I shake my head. Impossible. Harlan personally dealt with this issue. I have all the documents, warranty cards. Well, maybe I got something mixed up. Edric shrugs. In any case, the whole system has to be checked. That's an extra expense, of course. I can feel the anxiety building up inside me. Something's not right here. What about your will? He asks suddenly, changing the subject. Have you reviewed it since Harlan died? The question catches me off guard with its directness. Yes, 3 years ago. Why do you ask? I'm just worried about you, he answers. I want to make sure all your affairs are in order. You know, a lot of older people leave large sums of money for questionable causes, like animal shelters or charities. His tone at the word charity says more than 1,000 words. I'm holding back a smile. My will does provide substantial sums for a local animal shelter and a scholarship fund for veterinary college students. Kira gets the house and a third of the money quite fair, considering Harlan and I spent a fortune on her education and first home for her. My affairs are in order, Edric, I say calmly. My lawyer, Mr. Finch, has arranged everything. Finch? Edric wrinkles his nose. But he's old. He's probably in his 80s, isn't he? You need someone more modern. I have an excellent lawyer I know, specializing in probate law. Minus Mr. Finch is 73, and his mind is sharper than many 40-year-olds, I replied. He's been a friend of Harlan's since college, and he knows our cases well. Edric shrugs, but I can see that the conversation isn't over. Just postponed. After he leaves, I sit in the kitchen, pondering. Something is bugging me. All this talk about selling the house, about replacing a boiler that doesn't need replacing, about my will. Too much interest in my finances from my son-in-law and daughter-in-law, and they've never taken much interest in my affairs before. By 3 o'clock, I'm on my way to Wesley High. The walk takes 15 minutes, and I enjoy the fresh air despite the pain in my hip. Wesley runs out of the school, his face shining with excitement. Grandma, guess what? Mr. Donovan said my project on bird migrations is the best in the class. I'm going to be presenting it at the school science fair. Congratulations, honey. I hug him, feeling my heart fill with pride. I always knew you were talented. On the way home, Wesley talks about his project, how he researched the migration paths of different bird species and the maps he drew. His enthusiasm reminds me of my own youth when I could spend hours watching animals. When we get home, Wesley asks me to help him design the project. We spend the evening working, and I feel a joy that has been sorely lacking lately. This boy is a true treasure, a little ray of light in my life. Later that evening, Kara and Edric return. They discuss Kara's upcoming 50th birthday party, which they plan to celebrate in 2 weeks. We'll invite about 30 people, Kara says. All the important clients, colleagues from the agency, family. That sounds wonderful, I say. What can I do to help? Nothing, Mom. Her tone leaves no room for objection. We've already organized everything. You just need to be there. After dinner, Wesley comes into my room to say goodbye before bed. Grandma, are you happy here? He asks suddenly, looking me straight in the eye. The question catches me off guard with its directness and depth. I'm happy that I can see you every day, I answer carefully. He shakes his head. That's not an answer. You're not happy. I can see. The wisdom of this child sometimes scares me. It's not always about being happy, Wesley, I say, choosing my words. It's important to be where you're needed. I need you, he says seriously, and I don't want you to leave. But I can see Mom and Dad talking to you. It's not right. I hug him, feeling a lump come up in my throat. Things in life aren't always perfect, sweetheart, but as long as I have you, I can handle anything. He presses against me harder. I want to be like you when I grow up, strong and kind. In that moment, I realize that despite all the hardships, I've done something right in this life. I raised a daughter who, for all her flaws, raised such an amazing son. Kira's 50th birthday has turned into the event of the month. Every day I hear new details: exquisite catering, live music, a celebrity photographer. For someone who complains about financial hardship, my daughter is planning a pretty wasteful celebration. This morning, Kira is running around the house with tablet in hand, checking guest lists and menus. Mom, are you sure you don't want to wear that blue dress I showed you? She asks, keeping her eyes on the screen. It's much more modern than what you usually wear. I finish my morning tea and shake my head. Thank you, darling, but I prefer my own closet. Besides, the dress you're suggesting is too revealing for a woman my age. Kira rolls her eyes. Mother, this is the year 2025. 70-year-old women wear miniskirts and take selfies for social media. And fine, let them, I reply calmly. But I'm not them. Our conversation is interrupted by the ringing of the phone. Kira looks at the screen and her face instantly changes. She walks out of the kitchen covering the door, but I can still hear the beginning of the conversation. Yes, Mr. Holdway, I understand. No, we haven't forgotten about the payment. Yes, of course, before the end of the month. Her voice sounds strained. When she returns, her smile seems strained. Is everything all right? I ask. Yeah, just a client with questions about a house they're considering. She replies a little too quickly. Nothing important. I nod, though I don't believe a word of it. For the past 2 weeks, I've noticed how often Kira and Edric whisper in corners, how abruptly they cut the conversation short when I enter the room. Something is going on, and from the scraps of phrases I manage to pick up, it's about money. Last night, on my way down to get a glass of water, I heard them arguing loudly in the living room. You promised that this investment would make a profit. Kara's voice was ringing with rage. And now we've lost almost everything. It's a temporary hardship, Edric replied. The market will recover. We just need to hold on a little longer. A little longer? Kara was almost shouting. Edric, we're 3 payments behind on our mortgage. The bank has already sent a warning. I quietly went back to my room, not wanting to eavesdrop any further. But what I'd heard explained a lot: their persistent interest in my finances, the constant talk of selling my house, even this expensive party to create the appearance of success in front of friends and coworkers. This afternoon, Edric comes home unexpectedly. I'm sitting in the living room with a book when I hear the front door slam. Kara, he calls out. Are you home? She's gone to show the house, I answer, peering out of the living room. She said she'd be back by 4. Edric looks disappointed. He's wearing an expensive suit, but his tie is loose, and there are droplets of sweat glistening on his forehead, despite the cool spring weather. Is everything okay? I ask. Yeah, sure. He tries to smile, but it comes out a grimace. Just a busy day, lots of meetings. He quickly heads upstairs to his office. I hear him close the door. A few minutes later, there are muffled voices. Apparently, he's on the phone with someone. The tone sounds nervous, almost pleading. I turn back to my book, but I can't focus. Something about Edric's behavior seems odd, even for him. Or he usually comes home late, often after 8 in the evening, claiming he has business dinners with clients. Half an hour later, I hear him coming down the stairs. Looking into the living room, he looks more collected, though still tense. Niobe, I've been thinking, he begins with feigned carelessness. How have you been feeling lately? Is your hip bothering you? Better, thanks, I reply. The doctor says the recovery is going well. Great, great, he nods. What about your blood pressure? Any headaches? Any heart palpitations? I look at him suspiciously. Why so interested in my health, Adric? Just looking out for you, he shrugs. At your age, you need to keep a close eye on your health, especially your heart. Do you know how many people die of heart attacks before they reach 80? I know roughly, I answered dryly. My husband was one of them after all. Edric looks embarrassed. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I'm just worried. Are you taking all your medications regularly? Yes, Adric. I'm quite capable of keeping track of my treatment. Of course, of course. He shifted uncomfortably from foot to foot. By the way, I recently read about a new drug for joints. Very effective, they say. Maybe you should discuss it with your doctor. Maybe, I answered, more and more surprised by this conversation. What's the name of the drug? E. I don't remember exactly. Something with a D in it, I think. I'll look it up and show you. He glances at his watch. Oh, I gotta go to a meeting. I'll see you tonight. He leaves in a hurry, and I'm left with an uneasy feeling. In the 4 months I've lived here, Edric has never shown such interest in my health. What's changed? Around 3 in the afternoon, I go upstairs to grab a sweater. The house is chilly despite the spring. As I pass Edric's office, I notice the door is ajar. He usually locks it when he leaves. I slow my step, fighting my curiosity. It's not nice to peek into someone else's office, but the anxiety I've been feeling the last few days overpowers it. I cautiously peek inside. The office looks the same as usual. A desk, a computer, bookshelves of medical reference books that Edric uses in his job as a pharmaceutical rep. But on the desk, I see something new, a small box with a pharmaceutical company logo on it. As I get closer, I see the name on the label, digoxin. It's a name I'm familiar with. When Harlan started having heart problems, his doctor prescribed digoxin. It's a powerful drug with serious side effects if not properly dosed. Why is it on Adric's desk? I hear a noise downstairs. Someone's here. I walk quickly out of the office, trying not to make any noise. As I walk down the stairs, I see Wesley coming back from school. Hi, Grandma. He smiles, but his eyes look tired. You wouldn't believe what a long day it's been today. Tell me about it. I lead him into the kitchen, where I've already prepared a snack for him, a turkey sandwich and an apple. Today we had a science test, then extra math class, and then Mr. Donovan asked me to help set up the aquarium for science class. He takes the sandwich. I don't mind helping, but sometimes it feels like the day never ends. I understand, I nod. Everyone has days like that. Wesley chews his sandwich, looking out the window thoughtfully. Grandma, can I ask you something? Sure, honey. Is it normal for parents to fight all the time? His voice sounds quiet, almost embarrassed. I sigh, searching for words. All families fight sometimes, Wesley. It's part of life. But they didn't fight so much before. He looks at me seriously. Now it's almost every night when they think I'm asleep. It's always about money, about some kind of debt. Yesterday, Dad said we might lose the house if we don't find a way out. What does that mean? I feel cold inside. A kid shouldn't have to hear things like that, worry about a roof over his head. You know, adults sometimes face financial difficulties, I say carefully. But they solve those problems. You have nothing to worry about. But I do, Wesley says stubbornly. Especially when they talk about you. About me? I freeze. What are they saying? Wesley stares down at his plate, clearly unwilling to continue. It's nothing like that. Just, he hesitates. Dad said you could help if you sold your house. And Mom said you're too stubborn and don't realize you'd be better off in a nursing home yourself. I try not to show how much those words hurt. A nursing home? Is my own daughter really thinking of sending me there? Don't take it personally, I say, trying to sound calm. When people are upset, they can say things they don't mean. But Mom didn't seem upset, Wesley objected. She spoke very calmly, as if it had already been decided. And then they started talking about your will, and Dad said something strange. He stops talking when he hears the sound of the front door opening. It's Kira, back earlier than promised. I'm home, she shouts from the hallway. Wesley, are you here? In the kitchen, he replies, giving me an apologetic look. Kira enters, smiling wider than usual. Hello, family. How was your day? She kisses Wesley on the top of his head, something she rarely does. I have great news. I sold that house on Briarwood, full price, no haggling. Congratulations, I say. Is it a big deal? Very big. She opens the refrigerator and pulls out a bottle of white wine. I think it deserves a little celebration. Wesley, do you have your homework done? Almost, he answers. All that's left is history. Okay, finish it before dinner. We're ordering pizza tonight. She pours herself a glass of wine. Mom, do you want some? No thanks, I answer. I shouldn't mix alcohol with my medication. Oh yes, your medication, she takes a sip. By the way, Edric talked to your doctor, Dr. Summers, right? I raise my eyebrows in surprise. Why would Edric be talking to my doctor? He's worried about your health. Kira shrugs. You know his company is making new drugs for elderly patients. He wanted to see if they would work for you. Dr. Summers shouldn't discuss my health with Edric without my consent, I say firmly. It's a violation of doctor-patient confidentiality. Oh, Mom, don't be so dramatic, Kira waves me off. Edric was just trying to help. Besides, he's your brother-in-law, practically family. I don't answer, but I'm growing anxious inside. Something is definitely wrong. First, Edric's strange questions about my health. Now these conversations with my doctor behind my back. I'm going to go to my room, Wesley says, gathering his things. I need to finish my history assignment. When he leaves, Kira sits down across from me, still clutching her glass. Mom, I wanted to talk to you about your house, she begins. The builders found another problem. It looks like the foundation is more damaged than we thought. The repairs are going to cost $20,000 more than we thought. 20,000? I shake my head. That's impossible. The insurance company inspector checked the foundation and said it was fine. Well, obviously he was wrong, Kira replies irritably. The builders found cracks in the basement walls. They could collapse at any moment. I want to see those cracks for myself, I say, and talk to the builders myself. Why complicate things? Kira takes another sip. Edric has already coordinated everything. They'll start work next week. Has the insurance company approved the extra costs? Not yet, but it's a formality. She waves it off. Worst case scenario, we can take that money out of your savings and pay it back when the insurance pays out. I look at my daughter carefully. Something in her demeanor seems fake, as if she's playing the role of a caring daughter but not doing a good job of it. Kira, I want to be frank. I think you and Adric are hiding something from me. Are you in some kind of financial trouble? Her face changes instantly, her smile disappearing. What makes you say that? I'm not deaf, dear. I can hear you fighting at night. I hear the phone calls about late payments. I can see how nervous you both are. Kira finishes her wine in one gulp and pours another. Everyone faces financial difficulties sometimes, Mom. It's not your concern. It becomes mine when you start inquiring about my money and will, I parry. Or when you discuss the possibility of sending me to a nursing home. She flinches. Who told you that? Wesley? Her voice becomes harsh. He shouldn't be eavesdropping on adult conversations. This isn't about Wesley, I defend my grandson. This is about you and Edric plotting something, and it seems to be about me and my finances. Don't talk nonsense. Kira stands up, her movement sharp. We're just looking out for you. And yes, we think you'd be better off in a specialized facility with medical staff and a community of people your age. It's not a crime to want the best care for your mother. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself, I reply. And I'm not going to any nursing home. As soon as my house is fixed up, I'll go back there. Of course. Her tone becomes condescending. If that's what you want. But I see something else in her eyes, irritation, even anger. Like my plans are falling apart in some scheme. In the evening, when Edric comes home, he and Kira lock themselves in the bedroom. I hear muffled voices, but I can't make out the words. When they come out for dinner, they both look tense, but they try to hide it behind fake smiles. Wesley is unusually quiet all evening. He barely touches the pizza he usually enjoys and responds with one-word answers when Kira asks him about school. After dinner, I find him in his room, sitting on his bed with a book he's clearly not reading. Is everything okay? I ask, sitting down next to him. I don't know. He shrugs, not looking at me. Grandma, I'm scared. Of what, dear? I don't know exactly. He finally lifts his eyes, and I see real fear in them. It's just, Daddy's been acting strange. Today I saw him hiding some pills in his office, and he keeps talking about your health, about how old people can have heart attacks. A chill runs down my spine. Digoxin in Edric's office, his sudden interest in my health, talking to my doctor. Wesley, do you know what kind of pills those were? I asked, trying to sound calm. Not really, he frowns, trying to remember. The box was white with a green stripe, and the name, something with a D in it. Dix? Digo. Digoxin? I'm guessing. Yes, that's right, his eyes widen. How do you know that? I saw this box in your father's office, I confess. It's heart medicine. Your grandfather took it. But you don't have heart problems. Wesley says, and it sounds like a question. No, I shake my head. And the doctor never prescribed digoxin for me. We look at each other, and I can see that my grandson understands a lot more than a kid his age should. Are they trying to hurt you? He whispers. No, of course not. I hug him quickly, even though I'm not sure anymore. There must be some explanation. Maybe there's samples for doctors. Your father works with medicine, after all. But even as I say those words, I don't believe them. Why would Adric hide drug samples? And why digoxin, a powerful heart drug that can be fatal in overdose? Don't tell your parents we discussed this, okay? I'm asking Wesley. I'll figure it out on my own. He nods, still looking concerned. Be careful, Grandma, and don't take anything Dad gives you, okay? I promise. I kiss his forehead. Now it's time for you to go to bed. Tomorrow's a school day. When I get back to my room, my thoughts are spinning like a merry-go-round. Could Edric really be up to something so horrible? But why? The answer comes almost immediately. Money. He and Kira are in a financial crisis in urgent need of funds, and I'm an older woman with substantial savings and a house to sell. I remember their constant talk about my will, their insistence on revising it. What if their plan is to get rid of me, inherit everything, and solve their financial problems? The thought seems so monstrous that I try to push it away. But the facts speak for themselves. Digoxin in Adric's office. His strange questions about my health. Talking to my doctor without my knowledge. And this party less than a week away. The perfect moment when, among the many guests, no one would notice if an elderly woman suddenly became ill. I sit on the bed with my arms wrapped around myself. What should I do? Go to the police? But what will I say? That I suspect my own daughter and son-in-law of planning my murder, based only on a box of pills and strange conversations. I'd be considered a crazy old woman with paranoia. Leave home? But where to? My own house is still under renovation, and now I doubt the renovation is even moving at all. What if all this talk about foundation problems and extra costs is just a way to siphon money out of me, or get me to sell the house? There's a quiet knock on the door. I flinch in surprise. Mom? Kira's voice sounds unusually soft. Can I come in? Of course, I answer, trying to make my voice sound normal. Kira walks in, a cup in her hands. I brought you some chamomile tea, she says with a smile. I thought you might have trouble falling asleep after our conversation. I look at the cup and my heart starts beating faster. The tea I didn't ask for. After everything I've just been thinking about. Thank you, dear, but I've already drunk my herbs. I point to the empty cup on the bedside table, thanking fate that it's actually there. Oh, Kira looks disappointed. Well, why don't you have another cup? This chamomile is special, with honey and lavender. Helps me relax. No thanks, I shake my head. More liquids at night, and I'll have to get up to go to the bathroom every hour. She nods reluctantly. Suit yourself. Good night, Mom. Good night, sweetheart. When the door closes, I stare at the locked door for a long time. Then I stand up and quietly turn the key in the lock. For the first time since I've been in this house, I lock myself in for the night. Through the wall, I hear Kira enter Wesley's room, wishing him a good night. Then her footsteps retreat toward the master bedroom. Soon the house sinks into silence, but I know I won't be able to sleep that night. Kira's birthday has arrived. Since morning, the house has been filled with bustle. Waiters have arrived. Florists are arranging floral arrangements. The caterer is lining up gourmet hors d'oeuvres in the kitchen. I watch this splendor with a mixture of admiration and anxiety. Who would have thought that a family on the brink of financial collapse could afford such luxury? I deliberately stayed out of the preparations. After the night Kira had brought me chamomile tea, I tried to eat and drink only what I'd made myself. It hadn't been easy. Edric had offered me freshly squeezed juice twice, and Kira had insisted I try the new vitamins to strengthen my heart. I was sitting in my room now, finishing my makeup. I'd chosen a strict navy blue long-sleeved dress, elegant, but not eye-catching. Today I preferred to stay in the shadows. A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. It was Wesley, already dressed in a suit that made him look like a small businessman. Grandma, may I? His voice sounded strained. Of course, darling. He slipped into the room, closing the door tightly behind him. His face was pale, his eyes glittering restlessly. Are you feeling all right? I asked, concerned by his appearance. Yeah. He hesitated, looking back at the door. I heard something last night. After you left for your place, my heart clenched. Wesley had seemed anxious the past few days, but he'd avoided talking to me alone. I'd written it off as a pre-holiday rush, but now I realized the reason was more serious. What did you hear, Wesley? He glanced at the door again, as if he feared we were being overheard. My parents were talking in Dad's office. They didn't know I'd come back for my tablet. He took a deep breath. Grandma, they were talking about you, about how to solve the grandma problem tonight. An icy lump froze in my chest. What exactly did they say? Dad said it was done, that he'd put something in your drink during the toast. Wesley swallowed. Some kind of medicine that would cause a heart attack. He said it would look natural at your age and no one would suspect. His voice shook, tears came to his eyes. Mom didn't want to at first, but then Dad reminded her about the money, that the bank was about to take our house, and she agreed. I felt my fingers go numb, so my worst fears were confirmed. It wasn't paranoia. They were really planning to kill me. Grandma, I don't know what to do, Wesley whispered, and in that moment he looked so small and scared that my heart was breaking. I wanted to call the police, but I was afraid they wouldn't believe me. I'm a kid and they're my parents. I hugged him, feeling him shaking. You did the right thing by telling me, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. We'll figure something out. There was another knock at the door, sharper this time. Mom, is Wesley with you? Kira's voice sounded annoyed. The guests are starting to arrive and you two are hiding. We'll be right out, dear, I replied. Wesley is helping me with the necklace. Okay, but hurry up. Her footsteps traveled down the hall. I turned to my grandson. Listen to me carefully, Wesley. We're going to go downstairs and act normal. I'll try to leave the party unnoticed, but I need you to stay here and act natural. Can you do that for me? He nodded, but his eyes were still full of fear. What if they notice you've left and guess that I warned you? That's a good question. My bright grandson understood the danger of his position. I'll say I'm not feeling well and go to my room. Then I'll slip out the back door unnoticed. If they ask, tell them you saw me go upstairs. It wasn't the best plan, but there was no time to think. The important thing was to get out of the house before Edric put his plan into action. We made our way downstairs where about 10 guests were already gathered. Kira, radiant in her silver dress, was greeting the new arrivals. Edric stood at the bar, filling glasses with champagne. When he saw us, he waved. Here is our honorable grandmother, he exclaimed with feigned joy. Niobe, you look wonderful. Would you like some champagne? No, thank you, I replied with a polite smile. I can't have alcohol with my medication. Maybe some mineral water? Sure, he nodded. I've prepared a special non-alcoholic cocktail for you. I made up the recipe myself. Cranberry juice, a little lime and mint. You'll love it. That's sweet of you. I smiled even wider, my heart racing with fear. But I'll start with plain water. My throat felt a little dry. Edric looked disappointed but nodded. Whatever you say, but be sure to try my cocktail later during the toast. I will, I lied. I spent the next hour maneuvering between the guests, making small talk and watching Edric closely. He glanced at his watch and occasionally disappeared into the kitchen. Kira was unusually animated, but I noticed her occasional glances in my direction, as if checking to see if I was still there. Wesley stayed close to me, which was unusual for a 12-year-old boy at an adult party. Usually he was quick to find an excuse to slip away to his room with a tablet or a book, but tonight he wouldn't leave my side like a little bodyguard. By 7 p.m., the house was full of guests. I recognized some of them. Kara's colleagues at the real estate agency, family friends we'd met at past holidays. There were some unfamiliar faces too, probably Edric's clients or business associates. There's going to be a toast soon, Wesley whispered as we stood in the corner of the living room. Dad always makes a toast at 7:30 before the main course is served. I nodded. I needed to act now while everyone was busy talking and not paying attention to me. Wesley, I'm going upstairs. If anyone asks, tell them I went to take my medicine and I'll be right back. He nodded, but his eyes were full of worry. Be careful, Grandma. Always. I squeezed his hand. And you be careful too. Act natural. I'll contact you as soon as I'm safe. I walked stealthily up the stairs, trying not to attract attention. In my room, I quickly gathered the essentials: a wallet, my phone, the small bag of medication and papers I'd kept ready since the day I'd seen the digoxin in Edric's office. Putting on my coat, I quietly left the room and headed for the back staircase that led directly to the kitchen. It was a risky path. The kitchen was now occupied by cooks and waiters, but there was no other way out. The main entrance was viewed from the living room where the party was being held. As I walked down to the kitchen, I could see the bustle of the cooks preparing the main course. They were so busy they barely paid attention to me. I was almost to the back door when I heard Edric's voice. "There you are, Niobe." He stood in the kitchen doorway with a glass in his hand. "I've been looking everywhere for you. There's a toast coming up. Everyone's gathering in the living room." "I was just getting some fresh air," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. I felt a little dizzy from the noise. "Oh, that's unpleasant." His eyes glittered for a moment, and I saw something predatory in them. "Maybe you should drink some water. I have your special drink ready." He held out a glass of ruby liquid to me. I noticed that his hand was trembling slightly. "Thank you, Edric, but Grandma." Wesley's voice interrupted me. He was standing behind Edric, his face white as chalk. "You don't have to drink that." Edric turned around sharply. "Wesley, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be with the guests?" "I was looking for my grandmother," the boy replied, keeping his desperate gaze on me. "Grandma, get out of here. Now." His voice was so panicked that several of the cooks turned in our direction. Edric looked stunned, his face red with anger. "Wesley, what kind of manners are these?" he hissed. "Apologize to your grandmother immediately." "No," Wesley said firmly, ignoring his father. "Grandma, please believe me. You have to leave right now." Edric stepped toward his son, his face contorted with rage. "What are you talking about? Go to your room." "It's okay, Edric," I said, stepping in. "Wesley's just worried about me. And he's right, I do need some fresh air. Maybe I'll take a little walk and get back to dessert." "No." Edric blocked the door. "Kira will be disappointed if you miss the toast." Everyone had gathered to celebrate her birthday. The situation was getting tense. Several waiters were already openly watching us, sensing the conflict. I noticed one of them looking questioningly at the head chef, who shrugged. "Why?" I said slowly, looking straight into Edric's eyes. "Are you so insistent that I drink this drink?" His gaze flicked to the glass in his hand, then back to me. "I just want you to have a good time, Niobe. This is a special night for our family." "Grandmother, don't drink that!" Wesley exclaimed again. "There's something in it." Edric turned sharply to his son. "Shut up!" he growled, losing his temper. "Go to your room!" "No!" Wesley shouted, and at that moment he pushed his father with all his weight. Edric staggered, the glass falling out of his hand and shattering on the tile floor, splattering red liquid. There was silence for a second. Then Edric rushed toward his son with a roar. "You little—" "Edric!" came Kira's voice from the kitchen doorway. "What's going on here? All the guests are waiting and you're making a scene." She stood with her arms at her sides, her perfectly painted face contorted with irritation. She looked around the kitchen and saw the broken glass, her husband's tense face, her frightened son, and me standing at the back door with my bag over my shoulder. "Mom, are you going somewhere?" Her eyes narrowed. "I need fresh air," I repeated. "Too many people, too noisy." "In a coat with a bag?" Kira slowly stepped closer. "What's going on, and why was Wesley yelling?" "Because your husband tried to poison me," I said bluntly, deciding that the time for subterfuge was over. "This special drink, what's in it, Adric? Digoxin? Enough to give an elderly woman a heart attack?" Kira turned pale. "What the hell are you talking about, Mom? Edric just wanted to make you feel good." "Then why was he so insistent that I drink this particular drink? And why was he hiding medication in his office that wasn't prescribed to me?" Edric stepped forward, his face contorted with anger. "You went through my things? Those are my samples for work. I'm a pharmaceutical rep, in case you've forgotten." "Who needs money fast?" I parried. "So much so that you're willing to get rid of me for the inheritance." Kira gasped, putting her hand to her mouth. "Mom, you've lost your mind. How can you accuse us of such a thing? Because I heard you two discussing it, Wesley suddenly shouted. Last night in the study. You thought I was asleep, but I heard the whole thing. There was dead silence. Kira and Edric looked at their son as if they were seeing him for the first time. Everyone in the kitchen froze, watching the drama unfold. You little liar, Edric finally hissed. You've never been in my office. I have, Wesley said stubbornly. And I saw you hiding the pills in your desk drawer. And I heard you tell your mom it would look like a natural heart attack. Kira turned even paler. Wesley, stop this at once. You don't know what you're talking about. No, I do. His voice shook, but there was determination in it. You wanted to kill your grandmother to get her money. You said it was the only way to save the house. Enough! Edric shouted, taking a step toward his son. Go to your room, you're grounded! Don't touch him. I stepped between Edric and Wesley. If you lay a finger on him, I'll call the police right now. Edric stopped, his face red with rage. Kira looked like she was about to faint. Mom, please, she whispered. Don't make a scene. The guests can hear everything. Indeed, a number of guests, attracted by the noise, were already gathered in the kitchen doorway. They were watching with curiosity. What's going on? Asked an older man I recognized as Edric's business partner. Kira, are you all right? Yes, Mr. Horn, just a little family misunderstanding, Kira said with a strained smile. We'll straighten it out and get back to the party. I'm afraid not, I said firmly. Wesley, we're leaving. You're not going anywhere, Edric grabbed my arm, and you're not taking my son. Let me go, I said quietly but firmly. Or I'll scream, and all the guests will hear how you tried to poison your mother-in-law. His grip loosened. Fear flashed in his eyes. You can't prove any of this, he hissed. It's the crazy old woman's word against us. And a broken glass with a suspicious drink in it, I remarked. I wonder what the analysis of its contents will show. And Wesley's testimony and the pills in your office? Edric took a step back, his confidence shaken. Kyra looked like she was about to cry. Mom, please, she pleaded. Let's talk like adults. This is a terrible misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding here is my belief that my own daughter can't want me dead, I replied, feeling a lump come up in my throat. Wesley, let's go. I took my grandson's hand and headed determinedly toward the back door. No one tried to stop us. Edric and Kira froze as if paralyzed, realizing their plan was ruined and their reputations hanging in the balance. As we stepped outside, the cool evening air hit my face. I inhaled deeply, feeling my knees shake. We walked quickly down the path leading away from the house without looking back. Where are we going? Wesley asked, holding my hand tightly. To my friend Niels, I answered. He lives about 15 minutes from here. You know him, the young veterinarian who bought my clinic. And then what? There was fear in his voice. What will happen to Mom and Dad? Me? I stopped and squatted down, despite the protesting pain in my hip, to look him in the eye. I don't know what's going to happen next, honey, but I promise I'll be there for you no matter what happens. You saved my life today, and I'll never forget it. His eyes filled with tears. I just couldn't let them do this to you, Grandma. You're the only one who truly listens to me, who believes in me. I hugged him tightly, feeling his little body shake with sobs. You're the bravest boy I know, I whispered. And I promise that everything will be okay. We'll get through this together. We continued on our way in the thickening dusk. Behind us was a brightly lit house full of guests who were probably already whispering about the strange incident in the kitchen. Ahead was the unknown, but I felt strangely relieved. Thanks to my grandson's courage, I had escaped a terrible fate. And now, no matter what happened next, I had a chance to protect him as well as myself. Grandma, Wesley said quietly as we approached Neil's house. I don't understand how they could have planned something like this. How could Mom agree to it? She's your daughter. I sighed, not knowing how to explain the dark sides of human nature to a child. Sometimes people do terrible things when they feel cornered, I said. Your parents are in serious financial trouble. They could lose their house, their status. Fear of loss can drive people to desperate acts. But murder? His voice shook. I'm not excusing them, darling. What they were planning is unforgivable. But I want you to know that your mother wasn't always like this. She was once a kind, caring girl who loved animals and dreamed of helping people. What happened to her? Wesley asked. Life, choices, ambition, a lot of things. I squeezed his hand. But you're different. You have a good heart and a brave soul, and I'll do anything to protect that in you. We approached Neil's house, and I rang the doorbell. As I waited for an answer, I looked at my grandson and realized that despite the horror of what had happened, I was grateful to fate that I had him. A little hero who trusted his heart and saved me. Neil Brody opened the door on the third ring. A tall 35-year-old man with disheveled dark hair and thin-rimmed glasses. He looked as if he'd been pulled away from his work, a notebook in his hands, a focused expression on his face. When he saw Wesley and me, he froze with his mouth open. Dr. Prescott? His gaze shifted from me to my grandson, then back again. What's wrong? Neil, I'm sorry to intrude, but we need help. My voice sounded shakier than I'd expected. Now that we were safe, the adrenaline began to subside, and a wave of realization hit me. Can we come in? Sure. He stepped aside, letting us into the small hallway. Come into the living room. I was just making tea. His apartment was a typical young bachelor's dwelling, a little clutter, books and magazines on every surface, minimal decor. But it was clean and it smelled of freshly brewed tea with bergamot. Sit down, please. Neil pointed to the couch, quickly removing the folders with papers from it. I'll be right back with the tea. While he fiddled in the kitchen, I put my arm around Wesley's shoulders. The boy looked exhausted, too much emotion for a child his age. It's going to be okay, I whispered, not quite sure I was telling the truth. Neil returned with a tray containing 3 cups and a plate of cookies. I hope you like Earl Grey, he asked, setting the tray on the coffee table. And sorry about the mess. I wasn't expecting guests. It's fine, Neil. I took the cup, grateful for the warmth it gave my trembling hands. Thank you for having us. You're welcome. He sat down across from me, his face a look of genuine concern. What happened? You both look shaken. I took a deep breath, not knowing where to begin. How to explain that my own daughter and son-in-law were planning my murder? My parents wanted to poison my grandmother, Wesley suddenly blurted out, his voice shaking. Dad put something in her drink at the party. Neil froze with the cup halfway to his mouth. His eyes widened, and he looked from Wesley to me. What? It's true, I said quietly. Edric, my brother-in-law, tried to slip me a drug that would cause a heart attack. Wesley overheard their plan and warned me. We ran straight from the party. Neil slowly put down his cup, his face pale. Are you sure? It's unbelievable. Unfortunately, it's all too real. I rubbed my temples, feeling the headache growing. The last few weeks, I'd noticed something odd. Edric had become unusually attentive to my health, especially my heart. I found digoxin in his office, which I wasn't prescribed. And yesterday, Wesley overheard him and Kira discussing a plan to get rid of me at a party. They're in terrible debt, Wesley added, rubbing the sleeve of his sweater. Dad made some bad investments, and the bank is going to foreclose on our house soon. They've decided that Grandma's inheritance is the only way out. Neil looked stunned. He took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes, as if hoping that when he put them back on, reality would change. You should go to the police, he said finally. This is attempted murder. We will, I nodded. But first, I needed to make sure that Wesley and I were safe. And, to be honest, I'm not sure we have enough evidence. What do you mean, not enough evidence? Neil was outraged. You have a witness. A 12-year-old boy testifying against his own parents. I shook my head. I'm afraid that's not enough. Edric would say that Wesley had misunderstood or made it up. And about the digoxin, he's a pharmaceutical rep. He has a legitimate explanation for why the drug was in his office. Neil hesitated, tapping his fingers on the arm of his chair. What about the drink itself? You said he put something in your glass? Yes, but the glass broke, I sighed. And even if it hadn't broken, Edric could claim it was just a non-alcoholic cocktail. But you could get tested, Neil suggested, if you drank even a drop of it. I didn't. I shook my head. Wesley warned me in time. We were silent, each of us immersed in our own thoughts. The situation seemed hopeless, word against word without hard evidence. Grandma, Wesley said quietly after a long pause, what about those times you felt sick after dinner? Remember a few weeks ago when Daddy made his special pasta sauce? I thought about it, remembering that night. Edric rarely cooked, but he showed off his culinary talents from time to time. That time he'd insisted I try his special sauce, even giving me a double portion. During the night, I felt dizzy, nauseous, and had a strange heartbeat. I chalked it up to age and fatigue. And after that peppermint tea, Wesley continued, Dad brought it to you before you went to bed, and you felt weak all day. A chill ran down my spine. Wasn't this the first time I'd tried it? Had Edric been experimenting, slipping me small doses of the drug, studying my reaction? Oh my God, I whispered. You're right. Neil leaned forward, his face serious. T-Tax, T.R. Prescott. Symptoms of digoxin poisoning include nausea, dizziness, arrhythmia. If you experience these after eating or drinking something your brother-in-law gave you, it could be a coincidence, I said, but I didn't believe it. Or it could be a stomach upset. Or they were poisoning you gradually, Neil said quietly, preparing the ground for a final act that would look like a natural death. We were silent again. The thought was so monstrous that it didn't fit in my head. My own daughter was slowly poisoning me, preparing my body for a lethal dose. We need proof, Neil finally said, standing up resolutely. Something the police wouldn't be able to ignore. But what? I waved my hands. We don't have anything. I do, Wesley said suddenly. Neil and I turned to him. The boy pulled a smartphone out of his pocket. I recorded their conversation last night, when they were discussing the plan. I stared at my grandson, not believing my ears. You recorded them? He nodded, looking both proud and embarrassed. I recently installed a new app to record voice memos. When I heard them talking about you, I turned it on and left my phone outside my office door. The recording isn't very good, but you can make out their voices. Wesley, I couldn't find the words. That's incredibly resourceful. One more thing, he added, scrolling through something on his phone. I took a picture of that medicine bottle in Dad's office and the medicine cabinet where he keeps all his samples. There's a whole collection of different drugs, and some of the packages are labeled with your name on them, Grandma. He showed us pictures, clear shots of a bottle of digoxin, next to which was a notebook labeled NP dosage, and some numbers. Other photos showed a cabinet full of medications, some labeled for Mom. Oh my God, Neil muttered, looking through the photos. This is a real pharmacy. Edric's the pharmacist, I reminded him. He has access to a lot of drugs. But these markings… I couldn't finish the sentence. The reality was too horrible. With this evidence, the police should take action, Neil said firmly, especially with the recording of the conversation. Let's listen to it, I suggested, feeling my heart pounding with fear and anger. Wesley turned on the tape. The quality was really not the best. There was a lot of background noise. The voices were muffled, but some phrases could be made out clearly. Tomorrow at the party, when everyone is distracted, was Edric's voice. But if something goes wrong, Kira's voice sounded worried. Nothing will go wrong. She'll drink the toast, feel bad, and everyone will write it off as age and excitement. By the time the ambulance arrives, it'll be too late. What if someone suspects? Who? Everyone knows that older people have heart attacks, especially if they've experienced symptoms before. Remember how sick she got after dinner last week? And after that tea? I prepared the ground. Edric, I don't know. We have no choice, Kira. The bank has given us a final warning. 2 more weeks and we're on the street. Your mother is stubbornly clinging to her money, refusing to help. And when she dies, we'll have everything, the house, the savings, everything. We can start over. The tape ended. There was a heavy silence in the room. Neil couldn't finish the sentence, his face a look of shock and disgust. I sat there petrified. It was one thing to suspect, and quite another to hear their voices discussing my murder as coldly as if it were a business transaction. We should take this to the police, Neil said, pointing to Wesley's cell phone. Immediately. I nodded, but some part of me still couldn't believe this was actually happening. Kira, my only daughter, who I'd raised with so much love, how could she fall so low? Grandma, Wesley took my hand, his eyes full of tears. I'm so sorry. You have nothing to apologize for, darling. I hugged him, feeling the tears come to my eyes as well. You did the brave and right thing. But they're my parents, he whispered. And I turned them in to the police. My heart ached for this child in the terrible situation of choosing between his parents and the truth. You did what you had to do, I said firmly. Sometimes the hardest choice is the right choice. I'm proud of you, Wesley. You showed a wisdom and fortitude that is rare even in adults. An hour later, we were already sitting in the reception area of the Beloit police station. The officer on duty, a young woman with a serious face, listened attentively to our story. Wait here, please, she said, finishing her notes. I'll get Detective Ramirez. He handles cases like this. Detective Ramirez was a tall, middle-aged man with shrewd eyes and calm manners. He led us into a private office. Mrs. Prescott, I'm going to listen to your story carefully, he said, sitting down across from us. Please tell it from the beginning. I detailed the events of the last few weeks. My forced stay at my daughter's house, Edric's strange behavior, my feeling worse after the food and drink he'd prepared, the discovery of digoxin in his office, and finally, the attempt to slip something into my drink at the party tonight. Wesley, gathering his wits, talked about the overheard conversation between his parents, about his father hiding the drugs, about his strange questions about his grandmother's health. Then he showed the photos and turned on the tape of the conversation. The detective's face grew more and more serious as he studied the evidence. These are serious allegations, he said at last. And the evidence is very convincing, especially the recording of the conversation and the photographs with the notes. So you're going to arrest them? Wesley asked. The detective sighed. Not so fast, young man. We need to investigate first. Interview your parents, search the house, authenticate the record. That's going to take some time. And what do we do until then? I asked. We can't go back to that house. Of course not, agreed the detective. Do you have a place to stay? They can stay at my place, Neil interjected, who had been sitting silently beside me the whole time. I'm a friend of the family and a colleague of Dr. Prescott's. Okay, the detective nodded, but I'd recommend something more formal. Given the circumstances, we can arrange temporary safe housing through the Witness Protection Program. Is that really necessary? I felt a chill run down my spine. You think we're in danger? I think people willing to go that far for money can be unpredictable when their plan is uncovered, the detective replied seriously. It's better to be reassured. We filled out official statements. The detective made copies of all the evidence from Wesley's phone. The process took almost 2 hours, and by the time we were done, it was late. We'll get back to you tomorrow morning, the detective said as he walked us to the exit. In the meantime, I recommend that you don't take any calls from your daughter or son-in-law. And be careful. As I left the station, I felt strangely empty. It was as if all emotion, all strength had left me, leaving only fatigue and sadness. On the way home, my phone started ringing. Kara's name popped up on the screen. I showed the phone to Neil. Don't answer it, he advised. Like the detective said, it's best not to talk to them right now. The phone rang a few more times, then a message came through. Mom, please answer. This is a terrible misunderstanding. We need to talk. I turned off the sound, unable to read any further. What could she possibly say? What excuse could a man who planned the murder of his own mother have? By the time we got to Neil's house, Wesley was already falling asleep in the back seat. The day had been too intense and emotional for a kid his age. Come on, honey. I gently woke him up. We need to get some sleep. Tomorrow will be a new day. Wesley and I spent 3 days in a safe house provided by the police. It was a modest apartment on the outskirts of Beloit, uncluttered but secure. Detective Ramirez called every morning with an update on the investigation, and a social worker came in the afternoon to check on how we were doing, especially Wesley. The boy held firm, but I could see how hard it was for him. At night, he often woke up with nightmares. Sometimes I could hear quiet crying coming from his room. He missed his things, his familiar life, and despite everything that had happened, his parents. On the 4th day, I got a call from Detective Ramirez. Mrs. Prescott, your daughter and son-in-law are asking to see you, he reported. They claim this whole thing is a huge misunderstanding and they want to explain themselves. A misunderstanding? I felt a wave of anger rising in me. After all the evidence Wesley's collected? They insist that the conversation was taken out of context and that Edric kept the drugs for work, the detective replied. Of course we don't believe them, but they're entitled to the presumption of innocence until trial. What do you suggest? I asked, trying to remain calm. A meeting under controlled conditions, he said. At the Green Garden Cafe on Maple Street. We'll place our officers at neighboring tables and audio recordings will be made. It might help us gather more evidence. I've been thinking. The thought of meeting Kara and Edric was a mixed bag of feelings, fear, anger, but also a strange need to look them in the eye, to hear what they had to say for themselves. Okay, I finally agreed. But Wesley shouldn't be there. Of course, the detective agreed. He'll stay under supervision in a safe place. The meeting was set for the next day at 11 in the morning. I spent a sleepless night going over every possible scenario in my head, what I would say to my daughter, how I would look into the eyes of the man who planned my death. In the morning, the officer took me to a cafe. It was a cozy place with big windows and lots of green plants, hence the name. Detective Ramirez was already waiting for me at the entrance. They'll be here in 10 minutes, he said. Our people are at tables 3 and 6. You'll have a panic button under the table just in case, and remember, everything is being recorded. I nodded, feeling my heart pounding with nervous tension. The detective escorted me to a table in the corner, where I had a clear view of the whole room, and left, leaving me with a cup of tea that I never touched. At precisely 11, the door to the cafe opened, and Kira and Edric walked in. My daughter looked pale and gaunt, dark circles under her eyes. Edric, on the other hand, seemed focused and determined, his smile glued to his face like a mask. They spotted me and headed toward my table. Kira tried to hug me, but I pulled away. Her face twitched in pain, but she quickly pulled herself together. Mom, she began, sitting down across from me. Thank you for agreeing to meet. We've been so worried about you. We were? My voice sounded colder than I'd expected. It was a strange way to show concern, planning someone's murder. Niobe, please, Edric interjected, his voice soft, persuasive. The same tone he must have used to talk doctors into prescribing his medication. This is a terrible misunderstanding. Wesley misunderstood what he heard. Misunderstood? I raised an eyebrow. He recorded your conversation, Edric. I heard it with my own ears. You were discussing how to slip a drug into my toast to induce a heart attack. Kira turned even paler. Mom, I swear it's not what it looks like. Yes, we're having financial problems, and yes, we've discussed your inheritance, but we've never… What about the digoxin in Adric's office? I interrupted. With notes on the dosage for me? And the times I'd gotten sick after a meal or tea your husband made? Edric looked stunned. You were poking around my office? His voice grew harsher, the mask of civility slipping for a moment. No, Wesley took the pictures, I replied. Smart boy. A lot smarter than you thought. We love Wesley, Kira said, her eyes filling with tears. And you, Mom, please come home. We'll explain everything, I promise. It's not what you think. I looked at my daughter and didn't recognize her. Where was the little girl who cried over a wounded bird? Who dreamed of helping animals like her mom? When did she turn into this woman who would do anything for money? Kira, I said quietly, look me in the eye and tell me that you and Edric weren't planning to poison me to get the inheritance. She opened her mouth, but couldn't say a word. Her eyes flickered to Edric, looking for support. This is absurd, he interjected. We want you to come home, Niobe. Wesley misses you. He's with you, isn't he? How is he? Don't change the subject, Edric. My voice hardened. And don't you dare use Wesley. He's safe, and that's all that matters. He's our son, Kira said suddenly. You have no right to keep him from us. Did you have the right to plan my murder behind his back? I parried. How do you think it felt for him to hear that his parents wanted to get rid of his grandmother for money? Kira flinched as if struck by a blow. Edric put a hand on her shoulder, his face hard. Listen, Niobe, he said quietly. Let's be realistic. You have no direct evidence. The recording of the conversation? It's indecipherable, and we could argue that they were talking about something else entirely. The drugs in my office? I'm a pharmaceutical rep. That's my job. And the fact that you've been feeling sick sometimes? You're an old woman. You have health problems. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Even if the police get a search warrant, they won't find anything. I've put everything away. It's your word against ours, Niobe. And who do you think looks more convincing? A respectable married couple? Or an old lady possibly suffering from dementia? I felt the blood run cold in my veins at his words. He was threatening me, right here in public, unaware that his every word was being recorded. That's it, I said calmly. So now I'm suffering from dementia? Mom, that's not what Edric meant, Kira quickly interjected. It's just that at your age, your memory can be a little faulty and you might have misinterpreted. I'm 78, not 108, I cut him off. There's nothing wrong with my memory. And I remember exactly how Edric insisted that I drink his special drink at your birthday party. The one he put digoxin in. It was just a cocktail, Edric exclaimed, but his eyes were running, giving away the lie. In that case, I rose slowly from the table. I'm sure you won't mind a police search of your house. You have nothing to hide, do you? Edric's face froze. Kira looked like she was about to faint. Mom, please, she whispered. Don't do this. We can work this out as a family. Family doesn't try to kill each other, Kira, I said, tears welling up in my eyes. Family takes care of each other. Like Wesley took care of me when he warned me about your plan. At that moment, Detective Ramirez approached our table showing his badge. Kira Prescott and Edric Landau? He said in an official tone. I'm Detective Ramirez with the Beloit Police Department. We have a search warrant for your home that is currently underway. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you to come with me to the station for a statement. Edric's face contorted with rage. He stood up abruptly, knocking over a chair. It's all you. He pointed a trembling finger at me. You lured us here on purpose, you old witch. Two officers sitting at neighboring tables were instantly at my side, ready to intervene. Minus Mr. Landau, I advise you to calm down, the detective said calmly. You're only making your situation worse. Kira sat with her hands over her face, her shoulders shaking with sobs. What have I done? She whispered. What have I done? The detective nodded to the officers, and they led Edric and Kira out of the cafe. As the door closed behind them, I felt my legs give out, and I sank back into my chair. Are you okay, Mrs. Prescott? The detective asked, taking a seat next to me. No, I answered honestly. But I will be. You're a very brave woman, he said. And the recordings are excellent, especially the part where your son-in-law actually admits to getting rid of the evidence and threatens to declare you insane. What happens next? I asked. House search, interrogations, arraignment, the detective replied. With the evidence we have, including today's tape, we have a strong case. They'll both go into custody, at least until trial. And Wesley? That was what bothered me the most. As next of kin, you're entitled to temporary custody, the detective said. Of course, there will be a trial in family court, but given the circumstances, I'm sure the judge will be on your side. 2 hours later, I was with Wesley at the social services office, filling out the temporary custody paperwork. The boy sat next to me, quiet and thoughtful. Have you seen Mommy and Daddy? He finally asked. Yes, honey. I took his hand. We met at the cafe. And what did they say? I sighed, not knowing how much to say. But Wesley deserved the truth, or at least part of it. They denied everything, I said. They said it was a misunderstanding and that you misunderstood what you heard. His face tensed. But I wasn't wrong, grandmother. I definitely heard them talking about putting something in your drink to make you... His voice trembled. To die. I know, honey, I hugged him. And the police know too. Your notes and pictures were very helpful. They're searching the house today. They're gonna put Mom and Dad in jail? I could hear the fear in his voice. Maybe. I didn't want to lie to him. But first there will be a trial to decide how guilty they are. What about me? Was the question I'd been waiting for and dreading. If you agree, you'll live with me, I said carefully. I'm filing for custody. In your house? His eyes brightened a little. Tom, with a big garden? Yes, I smiled. We'll have to finish the renovations first, though. I think we can stay in a motel for a while. I want to live with you, he said firmly. I always had. His words warmed my heart, but I knew we had a long and difficult road ahead of us. 2 days later, we were allowed to go back to Kira and Edric's house to gather Wesley's things. The police had already finished their search, and the house was empty. Kira and Edric remained in custody. Wesley walked silently through the rooms, gathering his books, his clothes, his computer. I helped him, trying not to think about the fact that this house where my family had once lived was now a place of betrayal and pain. "You ready?" I asked him when we had packed everything in our suitcases. He nodded, looking around his room one last time. "Grandma, can I take the pictures?" He pointed to the family pictures on the shelf. "Of course, dear." I realized that despite everything that had happened, he still loved and missed his parents. We settled into a small motel on the outskirts of town. I contacted new builders to expedite the renovation of my house. Luckily, the insurance company finally approved the payment and work could begin immediately. A week after Kira and Edric's arrest, I met with my attorney, Mr. Finch. The elderly gentleman, who had known Harlan and me for years, was shocked by what had happened. "I never thought Kira would do something like this," he said, shaking his head. "I remember her as a little girl." "Me too," I sighed. "But people change, George, and not always for the better." "What do you want to do with the will?" he asked, getting to the point. "Change it completely," I answered. "Kira shouldn't get a dime. I want to set up an educational trust for Wesley to provide for his future. Some of the money will still go to the animal shelter. And the house? I thought the house will go to Wesley when he's of age. Until then, I'll live there with him." Mr. Finch nodded and began to write down my wishes. When we finished, he looked at me sympathetically. "Niobe, are you sure you can handle raising a 12-year-old boy? It can be difficult at your age." "I feel stronger than ever, George," I replied. "After everything that's happened, I realize I still have a lot of strength, and then I have friends who will help." Neil Brody had already offered his support. "The young vet who bought your practice?" He smiled. "He's a nice guy." "Yeah," I agreed. "And he gets along great with Wesley. They both love animals." 3 weeks later, the renovation of my house was finished, and Wesley and I could finally move in. As I helped the boy set up his new room, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and hope. Life had taken an unexpected turn, but perhaps for the best, for both of us. "Grandma, look!" Wesley ran to the window of his room. "You can see the old oak tree from here, and there's a nest on it. I think robins live there." I went over and put my arm around his shoulders, looking at the majestic tree that had been growing in our garden since before the house was built. "When I was a little girl about your age, I used to spend hours watching the birds in that tree," I said, taking notes, sketching. "It partly influenced my decision to become a veterinarian." "It did?" His eyes lit up. "Can I watch them too? I have binoculars." "Sure," I smiled. "And you know what? There should be an old telescope of your grandfather's in the garage. We can set it up so it's pointed right at the nest." "That would be amazing," he exclaimed. "Can we look right now?" His enthusiasm was contagious. For the first time in a long time, I felt real joy. Kara and Edric's trial took place 2 months later. The evidence was irrefutable: the tape recording of the conversation, the photos of the medications with the notes, my testimony of feeling sick after eating the food Edric had prepared, and most importantly, Kara's confession, who couldn't take the pressure and told the whole truth. Yes, they planned my murder. Yes, Edric had been slipping me small doses of drugs to test my reaction. Yes, they were counting on the inheritance to solve their financial problems. Edric was sentenced to 15 years in prison for attempted murder. Kira, as an accessory, got 8 years, with the possibility of parole in 5. Wesley attended the sentencing announcement, insisting he wanted to be there. He sat next to me, holding my hand, his face serious and sad. As the guards led his parents away, Kira turned around and looked at us. In her eyes was a plea for forgiveness that I couldn't give. Not yet. Life was slowly getting better. Wesley went to a new school closer to our house. I helped him with his classes, especially science, which he loved. Every day after school, we spent an hour or two in the garden watching birds or in my little lab, where I showed him the basics of veterinary science. Neil Brody became a frequent visitor to our home. He would bring interesting cases from his practice, discuss them with me, and Wesley would listen with bated breath. Sometimes he would take the boy to the clinic with him on weekends. letting him watch him work. "He'll make a great vet," Neil said one day as we sat on the porch, watching Wesley play with the Labrador puppy we'd recently adopted from the shelter. "He has intuition and patience." "Yes," I agreed, feeling proud. "He's like his grandfather." Harlan was also patient and attentive. "He also reminds me of you," Neil added with a smile, "just as determined and principled." I looked at my grandson, at his focused face as he taught the puppy a new command, and thought about the long and strange road that had brought us here. Tragedy and betrayal, pain and loss, but also love, courage, and new beginnings. Wesley sometimes asked about his parents, especially his mother. I never interfered with his desire to keep in touch with her. He wrote her letters. Sometimes we went on visits to the prison. These visits were always emotionally difficult, but I knew they were necessary for him to come to terms with the past and move on. Each day, he became more open and confident. The pain of his parents' betrayal wasn't completely gone. Such wounds never fully heal, but he was learning to live with it, turning it into strength and wisdom. As for me, I finally found peace. At 78, I began a new chapter of my life, full of cares and joys I never even dreamed of. Caring for my grandson gave me strength and energy that seemed long gone. One evening, as Wesley and I sat on a bench in the garden watching the sunset, he suddenly asked, "Grandma, do you ever regret what happened? About what I told you?" I put my arm around his shoulders. "Never, darling. You saved my life. And not just literally. You gave me a new purpose, a new meaning." "I'm glad we're together," he said, snuggling against me. "Here in this house, with the puppy and the telescope and all your animal stories." "Me too, Wesley." I kissed the top of his head. "Me too. We had many challenges ahead of us." Wesley's adolescence, my own inevitable aging process, complicated feelings for Kira that we both had yet to sort through. But I knew we could handle it. Together, supporting each other like a true family. The day Wesley told me in a panic, "Grandma, get out of here, now." Zrenia, he not only saved my life, he gave us both a chance at a new beginning, a life full of love, understanding, and caring. And for that, I will be grateful to him for the rest of my life.